much, President Alex, fellow Rotarians, and our distinguished guests. I think everybody in this room is probably in agreement that Frankfort is a city on the move. This is a great city. If it weren't, we wouldn't be here, that's for sure. And I would bet most of us in this room are transplants. I'm from Louisville, and most of the people in there are probably from other parts of the state or out of the state. But Frankfort is going to be on the move. It's going to be our theme today. There are a couple of activities that are happening coming up soon that I think will help move Frankfort even further along as we try to make it a better city. I just want to mention them to you. One is going to be on April the 25th on Thursday evening from 6 till 8:30 p.m. That's going to be our Frankfort Rotary Club's International Dinner. It will be at the Frankfort Country Club. And of course, we won't have a meeting that Wednesday. But I would encourage everyone to try to attend that. Bring friends, colleagues, members of your family. It's going to be a wonderful program. And the sense of the group a couple of months ago, or a couple of weeks ago really, was we wanted to do something on the bourbon industry. We hear about the Bourbon Trail. We see that that is really focusing international attention on Frankfort, Kentucky, and environs within 25 miles of this city because we are the bourbon capital of the world. 95% of all the bourbon produced is produced in Kentucky. So that's going to be our theme, and our speaker is going to be Eric Gregory, who is the president of the Kentucky Distillers Association. I've not met him. I will meet him tomorrow, but I understand he's a great speaker and he's got a very powerful message. And so be sure and mark April 25th on your calendar. The other program's coming up a little sooner, and that'll be on Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Paul Sawyer Public Library in the Riverview Room. And there's going to be a discussion on how Frankfort, which is already a compassionate city, can become a more compassionate city. And this is really an idea that's taking hold in many cities, hundreds of cities around the world, to focus on how to make the city more welcoming, more loving, more understanding, make people feel more at home in that city. And so the purpose of this is to get an update from the folks in Louisville who've been in this program now for about 7 years, and it's really been a very successful program in Louisville. But the program, again, will be this Sunday, March 24th from 2 to 4 p.m. in the Riverview Room at the Paul Sawyer Public Library, and it's supported or co-sponsored by the Frankfort chapter of the United Nations Association of the USA and also the Frankfort Interfaith Council. Those are just a couple of programs that I think will, again, move us forward as a great city, a great capital city, and a city on the move. Our guest speakers today are two folks who've been very, very involved in this type of work. I'm going to introduce Jason Delambre, and he'll introduce his brother Brian, who came along to also provide support and to explain what they've been doing. But Jason moved back to Frankfort after living in many areas of the world. And since his return, he started a number of community projects to help Frankfort realize it's truly a city on the move. And there are many amazing things that are happening here. And most of the time, we're not aware of them. And we really should be aware of what's going on and participate in these activities whenever possible. Jason truly believes this year will be Frankfort's breakout year in its transformation into a major global tourist destination over the next coming 5 to 10 years. Jason's the CEO of Interdependent Energies, a carbon and sustainable energy consulting firm, and he's also involved in 3 other energy types of programs. But please give a warm Rotary welcome to Jason Delambre. Jason? Oh, we need it. We got it right here. Oh, got the mic?
Hey everybody, thank you for having me back. I was talking to my brother, and I think this is my 6th or 7th time coming in the last 7 or 8 years. Always talk about a different topic, so thanks for putting up with me and my kind of ADD brain where I got to do a million things at once. So in that vein, I will be talking about a million things at once. In many ways, my brother is here because he's been doing all the hard work, and I'm just going to take all the credit for it. But really, I'm going to just dive into a million different areas on what I'm seeing happening in Frankfort, which I'm super excited about, which means I usually talk a little bit faster than normal because I'm so excited. But anything I leave off, my brother's going to jump in and kind of fill in the gaps. I want to start over here by showing you guys a presentation that we gave to a group of 30 investors that we invited to come to Frankfurt back in November of 2017. We had a group fly in from South Carolina. We had groups coming in from Louisville, Lexington. In the room was represented probably $100, $200 million worth of investment dollars. And they were coming to look at Frankfurt. Like, what is Frankfurt doing? We had a great group of people presenting Frankfurt. We had Kelly Everman, we had Robin Antonucci, we had the mayor. We were all trying to reframe Frankfurt for people. And a lot of what I feel that I've been doing over the last 3 years is trying to reframe Frankfurt, because if you talk to anybody outside of Frankfurt, Louisville, Lexington, it's a little bit of a hard conversation. You say, what do you think of Frankfurt? And then you prepare yourself. And they'll say things like, there's a Panera there that occasionally I'll stop at on the way between Louisville and Lexington. Oh, there's a good place to get gas on the way between Louisville and Lexington. I think in high school, I saw the state capitol on a trip when I was living in Lexington. That's about it. So on one level, they don't think much of Frankfurt, but on another level, it gives us an opportunity to reframe Frankfurt to Central Kentucky and the rest of the country and show them what Frankfurt really is about. So this presentation was an attempt to kind of capture everything that I think is the multiple gold mines that we are sitting on in Frankfurt that any community of our size in the world would kill for one or two of these, and we've got 7 or 8 of them. So I'm going to go through this really quickly, and then from that I want to tell you what's happened in the last 18 months since we gave this presentation and show you why I am so excited and so blown away by what I am seeing this year happening in Frankfurt, and I think it's going to set the stage for what Frankfurt's going to become in the next 5 to 10 years. So, with that, you grab my mouse. Okay, so as I said, this was a real estate investment opportunities. We were thinking the first thing you got to do is start infilling these vacant buildings downtown. You got to start putting in restaurants, you got to start putting in bars, you got to start giving people a reason to want to stay in Frankfurt when they're visiting bourbon country. And the biggest statistic that blows me away is that as of this last year, Buffalo Trace had 230,000 visitors come to see. These are people coming in with money in their pockets a quarter mile from here. And what do? 95% of them check out Buffalo Trace, drink a little bourbon, get in their car, and immediately leave town. Now tell me how many communities that have 220,000 people, the 10,000 of course coming downtown for a little while, wouldn't kill to have that half-mile problem. We already have them coming here. We just need them to come downtown, spend money, stay the night, and we would see so much new money and enterprises coming to downtown Frankfurt. So here are those things that I was noting. We're centrally located in Kentucky in the United States. We're at the major interstate hub of 2 major interstates. We're the capital city of Kentucky. We have 14 distilleries within 20 miles. Bardstown only has 6, and they're the capital of bourbon country. We're located in a river valley. We're beautiful scenic views, biking and walking options, beautiful city parks, history and tourism, historic downtown, downtown events, growth potential, and then we're doing this whole big civic center redevelopment, which you guys were inconvenienced in your parking getting here today. But it's a great opportunity. So as I said, we have all of these resources that are just laying there that we have never really set down to try to make work. So a few of these, we have 3 million people who live within 2 hours of Frankfurt. It is very easy to imagine Frankfurt as a day trip if we can have something for people to come and hang out and do, or even a weekend trip if they want to bring friends and meet friends down here as a central location. We're on these 2 hubs here. We obviously have a gorgeous state capitol building and many beautiful other buildings downtown. And then here are the 15 distilleries now. It was 14 when I did the PowerPoint originally, but we have 15 distilleries within 20 miles of downtown Frankfurt. It's crazy that people are thinking of staying in Louisville to go tour bourbon country. Why wouldn't they stay in Frankfurt and drive out these beautiful scenic creeks to all these distilleries and then come back? No rush hour, no traffic. We just have to be able to host those people and give them the experiences they're looking for. We've got, people say we have 2 banks of the river. I've done the math. I think we have more like 4 or 5. If you go all the way out to Capitol View Park, if you come downtown, if you go out to Lakeview Park, if you look at both sides of the river, we have so many different ways to access the river and see the river, and we have beautiful views and engagements of the river. It's just mind-blowing, and Canoe Kentucky has done an amazing job bringing people in from all over the country to experience the Elkhorn, but also start to experience Kentucky. And then we've got, I don't know about you guys, I mean, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in China, I've lived in New York, I've lived in Boston, I've traveled all over this country. This view, this ability to see Frankfurt from 8 or 9 different angles of all these scenic views, nobody has that. Cincinnati has maybe 3 really good views. We have like 7. Right there is a huge opportunity to be able to showcase our community, and oftentimes we're just not taking advantage of those different ways to see town. Walk Bike has done a great job over the last 15 years building bike trails all over, with the new one going up the hill to KSU, just about to get green lighted. We have other trails that can connect up this community to give people coming to this community an opportunity. Does anybody know that Capitol View Park is one of the best biking trails in the state? And we have people coming in on weekends from all over the state. I've heard as high as 3,500 people coming in on a Saturday to bike around Capitol View Park, and then they leave again because they don't know what else to do in Frankfurt. And that is a young demographic who has money to spend. They want to be at breweries, they want to eat food, they want to hang out, and they're right there on our doorstep, and we're losing them. So once again, a lot of what I'm talking about is how to start grabbing these people who are already coming and giving them a little more incentive to spend some money or to stay here. We've got beautiful city parks. Everybody knows Cove Springs. I think it's one of the nicest gyms in the state. Most people come here, they don't know about it. I think it's one of the nicest city parks in the entire state. It's gorgeous. And then we've got so many green spaces all throughout the community that are either parks or could be developed for parks or could be developed as interconnections between our parks in downtown and the west and east side. And then we've got history out the wazoo. We've got tourism. We've got people coming here for all different types of reasons and coming within our community for the Derby, for Buffalo Trace, for the History Center, genealogy. And then we've got a beautiful historic downtown. I mean, there's no bones about it. It's just gorgeous. And finally, we have tons of downtown events already happening with the Derby Breakfast, Burbonanza, all the running going on. And when I show this slide, Terry Bradshaw was our meeting. Oh, no, don't show that slide. Don't show that slide. It's showing that we haven't grown in 20 years. Well, we haven't grown in 20 years. Let's own that fact. Let's not pretend, because everybody knows. But I see that as a huge potential because we have a lot of building stock. When you're talking to real estate agents and you're talking to investors, they don't want to come in and build something that's a 3-star property to a 5-star property because the differential isn't that great. If you can take a 1-star property and go to a 5-star property because you're basically gutting it and building from scratch all the way up, it's a lot better to do. And we have a lot of opportunities for people along Home Street, Bell Point, east side of Capitol, downtown, these properties that are in decay that people can come in with the right mindset, not building for the market today, but building for the market in 3 years, if they can just see the potential, and they can take these properties and build entire blocks up to very solid housing that people who are commuting into town right now would want to live in. And so we just have to, it's a multi-point way of pulling all this stuff together. So I see this as a huge opportunity. And we obviously have low cost of real estate compared to Lexington, Louisville. Lexington now is pushing people out 2 counties away from them to live, to be able to commute into Lexington. So now we are starting to become a bedroom community for Lexington. Now tell me, would people rather live in Versailles or Frankfort if they had a chance to be able to live and work in Lexington?
Lexington's 7,000 doors short.
And Lexington's currently 7,000 doors short. So we have the potential to be all those doors and to grow thousands of more people for Frankfort. And we have available buildings, and then we have the Civic Center redevelopment. And then finally, I'm just ending on bourbonism, I think is the term. I keep talking to people. I help form the Frankfort Bourbon Society. I've helped do the Burbonanza. I'm in the Bourbon Strategies Committee that helped get Sunday liquor sales downtown. A lot of people ask, where are we on the bourbon curve? Is this bubble going to burst soon? Well, Buffalo Trace, if you look up on the hill, has no thoughts it's going to burst anytime soon. I think we're on the beginning curve of bourbonism. We could see another 30 distilleries opening up in central Kentucky and Kentucky in the next 5 to 10 years. And if Frankfort is ready to embrace bourbon, we could see those distilleries opening up around us and all the ancillary benefits that come with that. So finally, this was back 2017, it seems like an eon ago. Where are we today? Just in the last 18 months, we've had 2 new breweries open in town. We have the Siglusher Brewery that opened up that had an event this weekend that had 300 people come to it, and from every report I've heard, it was an amazing experience. We have Goodwood opening up in about a month, which is a Louisville-based brewery that my brother introduced me to the CEO, and we said, so what are your expansion plans to leave Louisville? And they said, well, we're going to go to Shelbyville. And we said, well, why aren't you coming to Frankfort? And he said, why would I ever come to Frankfort? So we brought him to town, we walked him around, we showed him everything, we plied him with some bourbon, showed him this vision, and suddenly they're opening up in Frankfort. Now, the important part of that story isn't that we brought the CEO from Goodwood to Frankfort. It was Joe Barry taking the Marina building and having a vision and sinking 3 years of his life and money and into that building and making it one of the coolest buildings with the coolest apartments in town, because he could see where the market is headed. And I think all of us need to see where the market's headed so we can get ahead of the market. So when these people start coming and say, where can I stay in Frankfort? We have awesome 4- and 5-star Airbnbs. We have rental units. We have bed and breakfasts going on. So now let me tell you some other fun things going on. So we've had those breweries opening. My vision is this: Frankfort could be a mini Asheville, North Carolina. Has everybody who's been to Asheville, North Carolina? Hip, cool place, 35 breweries downtown, a mountain community, green spaces, biking, walking. We have all of that potential, and we have a river. But what's fun about that, the math is, if you take the population of Asheville and divide it by the number of breweries, it works out to about 5 breweries we need in Frankfort to have the same number of breweries per capita as Asheville. And if you're doing the math with West 6, we're already got 3 of the 5 down. So 2 more breweries, 3 more breweries, and we can start having that same concentration of people who are wanting to come down, walk around, drink at a brewery, eat at a restaurant, walk along the river, stay the night. We can start having that kind of energy downtown all the time. And you start building that type of energy, and it keeps pulling more and more and more people into it. People go, why am I living in Lexington and paying 3 times what I need to pay for a house when I could live in Frankfort? And Houston Barber has done an amazing job with the school system. We've gone from, I think, 150th ranked in the state with our high school to 10th in just 3 years. We've got 3 Chinese teachers, 4 Chinese teachers, a Japanese teacher. He's working on an Arabic teacher. Our school system is going to start attracting young families who are going, I already work for the state in Frankfort. Why am I living in Lexington? So if we start building up these accoutrements to go with that lifestyle, we're going to see an influx of thousands of people into downtown Frankfort and all the other benefits that come with it. So if we can triangulate the tourism that's already here, we can triangulate more tourism that could come, and we triangulate young people who want to live here. And better yet, Frankfort has a major brain drain issue. I know most of my friends I went to high school with are living all over the country. They just get scattered and they don't come back. If we can turn Frankfort into a cool, hip place like a Boulder, Boulder, Colorado, or Nashville, or Fayetteville, Arkansas, we will start to see the young people coming back because they will have job opportunities here in Frankfort. Hey, I want to come here and start a brewery. Hey, I want to come start a restaurant. Hey, I want to do a tech company that wants to be located in a cool, hip town. I want to work for that tech company. And we could start to bring all of our young people who we've lost in our community, who know Frankfort the best, we can bring them back to help build Frankfort into what it becomes. So we have to get the ball rolling. So beyond all of that, you guys might have heard the E.H. Taylor House, which used to be the Heritage Council, just announced that they've bought the property, and the E.H. Taylor family is going to turn it into a 5-star bourbon-themed restaurant and bed and breakfast. They're bringing in a sommelier from New York. They're bringing in a Michelin-trained chef from New York. And we're going to have a Holly Hill or a 5-star restaurant right in the middle of downtown that is bourbon-themed and has a bed and breakfast tied to that. We've got a new barbecue joint coming downtown that's replacing the My Saigon. We have a new ice cream joint that just opened up. We have the Irish Bar opening up. We have the AJ's doing the Brick Alley, that 2-story outdoor sports bar kind of thing he's thinking, which it sounds a little crazy, but I think people are going to really like it. And then we have all of these other buildings that are now, I can't talk about it, but they are now coming into play, and they have people, serious restaurants from Louisville and Lexington who are looking at Frankfort. And so here's the trick about Frankfort. You start an independent restaurant or something in Frankfort, that doesn't bring the West Siders and East Siders downtown because they're like, well, whatever, it's just an independent little Frankfort restaurant. You grab a Goodfellas pizza from Lexington and you put that downtown. All the state workers, when they go out for lunch, go, hey, let's go down to Goodfellas. There's one downtown now instead of going back to Lexington to eat. Let's have dinner in Frankfort. You start getting these local and regional franchises in Frankfort, you get the state workers staying and maybe even thinking about living here. So I've run through a lot really, really fast. There's a million more things going on. Would you like to say anything?
Sure. So I work with commercial property owners and investors in Lexington, Louisville, around Central. I do a lot of tax-related benefits, which the new Tax Cut and Job Act basically says, hey, if you spend investments, we're going to let you take it off your taxes. So a lot of people are putting a lot of money in. One of the things I see in Lexington and Louisville is the fact that, so Lexington in particular, 2011, buildings over $5 million, 95% have sold out of state. Buildings over $1 million and that $1 million to $5 million, 50% have sold out of state. The other 50% are being bought by local investors. So one of my big goals is trying to get more Kentuckians to look at where they can put their money. If you're a local business owner, buy your building, because otherwise somebody out of state's going to buy it. Our stuff is so inexpensive compared to what you can buy in California. I mean, there was a gentleman in California that had a 4-unit complex, traded it up to a 32-unit complex in Cincinnati, made an extra $9,000 without putting one penny in. These guys are coming. All these people are going to be doing this. So what we have to do is kind of convince that our local business leaders, our local business people, like, it's time to invest into Kentucky. So I've been spending a lot of time over the last 18 months. I do the walkthroughs. So I get a hold of Jason. I probably brought 30 different groups of people and literally had a 2-hour walk around either downtown, around some of the residential, around some of the short-term rental opportunities, and just kind of showing them the bones of what Jason just talked about. And I do get a lot of, why would I look at Frankfort? I mean, they're investing in Louisville, they're investing in Lexington. The Lexington, residential is starting to dry up. The people that are putting money into it aren't really finding a lot of things. I think so far we've had about $3 million worth of investments come into town just on the residential side. So that's just a beginning of what we need because of so much of our inventory. By the end of these 2-hour talks, this particular team conversation, a lot of those people loved what they saw, loved the building inventory, loved the idea, said we were about 3 years too early for them to start investing over $1 million and above, because that's what they were looking at for their first initial stuff. And they hadn't really looked at Frankfort before. So ever since then, oh, by the way, Goodwood's opening up. Oh, by the way, this is happening. Oh, and they're just all excited about seeing what's going on, and they starting to hear. I've got people in Lexington going, I'm starting to hear more and more about Frankfort. The real estate agents are telling me they're hearing more about it. The bankers are telling me they're hearing more about it. So people are starting to approach me to come in and go, oh, if you're coming into town, let me show you what I'm showing other people. Let me introduce you to the new things that are happening. So I think we're getting a lot of traction. You never know until people start writing checks, but we're getting a lot of positive benefits. What we just want to know, I guess, is a little bit more about what are you all seeing? And if you're all seeing stuff that we're not, link us into it. And our biggest benefit of what we're trying to do is, there's a lot of guys out there who just want to go in, make a ton of money, don't worry about the community, don't worry about anything else, they're just out for the cash. We're being very strategic about who we're inviting into our community because we both grew up here. We're both from Frankfort. We started here. And so it's like, we don't want to bring in those guys that are going to come in and just take advantage of everything. We want as many people here to invest into it as possible, and we can help all of that. But I think the biggest key of what we're doing is we're pretty much an open book to anybody that's coming into town. And so it's like, here's all the stuff we're seeing. Here's what's happening. Here's what's going on. Let us connect you. Oh, Goodwood's coming in? Okay, let us connect you to these other events going on. Let us connect you to these other businesses. A lot of times somebody will open a business in downtown and, DFI might be involved in some other things, but they're kind of left to find their own clients. They're left to find their own customers. We need to embrace these new places. We need to say, if you have friends on the west side, you have friends on the east side, invite them into downtown, go to the new ice cream shop, go to the new restaurants, come to Goodwood. One of the big things that, Jason and I probably have about 50 things that we have to kind of limit ourselves about what we're working on every year because we have so many ideas that Frankfort needs so many things. But one of the big things that Wendy Kubler from KSU did was Bourbon on the Banks is going to be here. I cannot stress how important it is for us to all get behind this event and really start pushing. Wendy has gone out into the community with KSU and basically said, we want to put on one of the premier bourbon events. We want it to be rivaling anything in Kentucky in 5 years. This is going to be year one. We want 1,000 to 1,500 people. August 24th are going to be down here on the river. We got the whole river pretty much set up to be vendors, to be events. Wendy has a great idea. It's going to be announced a lot more soon. But she's already got, in Frankfort, $100,000 in sponsorship money coming into Frankfort for this event. Year one. That's before we've proven anything. So as a community, we need to step up and kind of go, we're going to push around this, because as we push on this, man, in 5 or 10 years, you have the 3 main events on Thursday, Friday, Saturday that they're going to run. We have the opportunity to do any events as a business. If you all want to do an event during that weekend, let me know, and we'll start trying to figure out how to tie it into everything we're doing with all the advertising, with all the Facebook pages, with everything we're happening. But most important, on that weekend, I need you all to invite people in Lexington and Louisville, people you have elsewhere, and go, I cannot believe you're not coming to this event already, because you all need to come down and see what we can do. And then anybody, I think we have 30 different chairs, I think, on the committees already. So there's a lot of people in Frankfort already working on this. Reach out to any of us if you all want to participate and help, because Bourbon on the Banks, I think, is going to be a really key piece. And that and Bourbonanza and a lot of the other events, when you see those happening in Frankfort, let people know. When people are going, oh, come to Lexington and come to dinner, you go, no, come to Frankfort and come to dinner, and then go for a walk along the river and make them see what we see. But that's kind of what I'm thinking from the last 18 months. So,
Well, and to riff off what Brian said, this is a time where we all need to take a little ownership of what Frankfort is today. Because I've just talked about how we've been reframing Frankfort outside the community. We've also been working to reframe Frankfort inside the community. And it kind of kills me, because one thing I hear all the time, because me and my brother are a little crazy, and we're a little energetic, and we always think of kind of wild ideas, but then we're really good at making them happen over time, was we had this opportunity for maybe a 20,000 person concert in Frankfort, where we could get someone like Willie Nelson or a headliner, a national headliner like that, to come to Frankfort for a weekend and do a big concert, and then all the people who would come around Willie Nelson or something like that. And we started talking about that idea. We have a guy who knows Willie Nelson. He's like, sure, that's no problem. We can put all this together. And then as we start to talk about it with people in Frankfort, they go, why would Willie come here? That right there is what we need to stop doing. We need to look in the mirror and realize, what is that from Saturday Night Live? We're good enough, we're strong enough, and by God, people like us.
and we have bourbon.
And as Brian was saying, when you see these things coming out on Facebook, you might not have time to go, but just go ahead and share it and forward it and push it, because the more people keep seeing things, what is happening in Frankfort? I keep seeing all these cool things. Yeah,
Question, housing stock.
sure.
55% of our housing is rental.
Yep,
Most of it's substandard, or
yep,
a lot of it's
absolutely,
We
absolutely,
have a slum right over by the Capitol then.
absolutely.
Right for gentrification.
Yep,
What are we doing? I moved here 2 years ago.
Yep.
It took us 2 years to find a place to live. That was
exactly.
difficult.
Exactly. Let me tell you that, because we're right in the middle of all that too. Danny Strong moved to town about 18 months ago. If you guys don't like the murals, Danny's the guy. But, and Brian, so throw your rocks over there. I do like the murals. I think they're bringing energy to downtown. There's like 7 more planned, but they're going to be happening. If you go to Cincinnati, if you go to Louisville, if you go to Pittsburgh, if you go to St. Louis, you get into these historic downtowns, you see these murals. They're part of it. It's just paint. If the new building owner doesn't like it, they can just paint over it and it's gone. But I think it brings for young people a cool, hip vibe that they see this Buddha over here and they go, that's cool. That's cool. Cool. Frankfort's cool. That's how they react. And we want more of that. We want people to go, wow, there's a brewery over there? Let's go hang out for a few hours. Wow, there's a restaurant. That's the hip vibe we need to give, and these murals are starting to do that a little bit. But what Danny did is he does a lot of stuff over in Lexington with Broken Fork. He takes these older buildings, he paints them really crazy colors, beautiful properties, put sculptures out front that students make, and put murals and paintings, all this stuff, and they just fly like hotcakes. If you look at the part near West 6 on the north side of town, that whole area, Danny was the one, him and his partner is the one that revitalized that whole part of Lexington. But
Let me ask something else, because one of the problems is that we have substandard rental properties that
Sure.
taxes are not being collected on.
Sure.
And they need to be simply condemned and sold for $1.
Sure. Let me tell you what. So Danny rolled into Frankfort. He bought a house over on Admiral's Landing. He had no plan to do anything in Frankfort except live here, period. And then me and my brother ran into him. We were blah, 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 blah. And then he started going around. He's like, oh, my God, Frankfort's so cool. And now he's this 30-unit complex up here on the hill. He bought that. And he's about to turn that into the coolest thing you can possibly imagine. That'll be some of the highest-end condos in town. But to answer your question, he lives over there on that east side of Capitol. And he said, I just want the pathway to my doorstep to look cool. And he looked at all those blocks, and this is the thing that blew my mind, and this is what he does. He sent letters to every single one of the people who own those houses. 80% of them said, sure, I'll sell you my house. All these slumlords, they said, yeah, you want that? whatever. He's got a bracket of 110 houses in his back pocket ready to be purchased. Me and Brian have been working with investors who do homes, who have 30 and 50 and 80 doors in Louisville and Lexington, to come in and start buying those houses in partnership, not directly, but unofficially. Okay, you'll take those, we'll take these 3, here's the bar. And you're seeing whole blocks of the community suddenly starting to jump up to that higher status, block by block by block by block. And so we're not talking one house thing, because there's a lot of risk with doing one house at a time. You do an entire block as a vision among 4 different people, all the price values go up together. And so, but what's the cool thing, he just started writing letters. And everybody was like, you want my property? Sure, take it. And so it's getting out of the slum, because his vision is get out of the slumlord hands, get single families in there. He is starting to work with the school system to create a mortgage program to get staff who work in an independent school. Hey, if you agree to move the community, because 90% don't live in Frankfort, if you agree to move the community, we will help underwrite your mortgage for your first house. And so it's starting to come up with inventive ways to get people who currently work here to come and live here. You start creating blocks and blocks and blocks of cool houses, well done, you're going to start creating this kind of community where people go, wow, I walk over the river and the Goodwood's right there. I'm going to invite my friends to come live on this block, because we're all going to have big block parties and hang out. You start getting that vibe going on that side of Capitol, you will see Frankfort transform, in addition to everything else we're talking about. Does that answer your kind of question? But if you want, we can introduce you to Danny, because he's got a whole pile of houses, and anybody who wants to step up and understands where the bar is. It's not incremental. It's not taking something and putting a little paint on it. It is going in, getting the house to where it's at, and now you have something you can sell or you can rent to a good, solid family at a good price. That's what he's looking for. So if anybody wants in that club, we can get you in the club.
I'm on the KCDC board, and we've been talking to developers about
Right.
some of the impediments or things that
Sure.
are slowing growth,
Yep.
slowing redevelopment. We've been hearing the same old things over and over.
Yep.
But I wanted to hear your all's perspective.
Okay. That's a great question, because we've heard a lot of that too. You go to Lexington or Louisville as a developer, and you go, hey, I want to buy this building and I want to do this. They go, great. Here is the step. Here's all the resources to help you. Here's the website. Da, 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 da. You come to Frankfort, and I work with the city a lot. We all know it. You go, I want to do this. They're like, okay, good luck. Here's the regs. Here's that person you got to chat to. You better be on his good side or you're in trouble. And it's like, if you don't have relationships in Frankfort, you are lost. You are in a swamp, and what you end up saying, because we've talked to a lot of them, Frankfort was the worst development experience of my career, because you just run into every single wall where if you know someone, you go, hey, how do I do this right? Oh, well, for you, this is how you do it right, and then boom. So me and my brother are trying to help put together teams who can help those developers go through every step of the process, so they just knock these buildings out really fast, because that's the problem. Sorry, you had a question back there, and then I'll get you. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm going to grab her first. Yeah.
In my work life, I manage the Tourist Commission and the Chamber of Commerce at the same time.
Awesome.
Chamber of Commerce is local and industry and trying to get industry in.
Yeah.
We did bus tours where we went to where there were 800 bus tour people there.
Wonderful.
And you had 2 minutes to tell them all about Frankfurt, and then you move on to
Right.
everybody else. We had 3 days of that.
Nice.
I don't even know if it's being done now. I hope so, because that was a really good opportunity to bring bus tours into this area and let
Yeah.
them know what's going on.
So we're doing something like that, but we're trying to brewify that, where the breweries are an amazing, I don't know how much time you guys have spent at breweries, but they're an amazing community kind of place that pulls people together. They're kid-friendly and all that kind of stuff. And we're trying to get these bus tours and bus troops to stop at the breweries and be able to then catch them there and talk to them over a beer or over some food, and be able to start to impart that while they're in this really cool scene. And if anybody hasn't been to Sig Lusher yet, go there, go inside. Right before you walk in, close your eyes, go inside, open your eyes, and then you will be able to imagine yourself anywhere in the world. You'll be able to say, I could be in Louisville right now, I could be in Lexington, I could be in Chicago. Once you're inside, you're like, where am I? Goodwood is going to be the same way. Stave out there in Middleton is the same way. It's like we're starting to create places when people go in, they don't feel like they're in Frankfort anymore. The cool thing is, as Frankfort starts to connect up all the pieces, you'll feel like you're in Asheville, North Carolina. And then people will go, this is amazing. Sorry, I'll get you. Just. Yeah.
My question is very much like Zachary's. I guess to ask him specifically, what do you need from city and county government, and are you getting?
Well, that's always a double-edged sword. Sometimes you need some stuff, and sometimes you just need them to stay out of the way a little bit. I mean, I don't know how people feel about the murals. I know there's contention in the community about it, maybe by the content, maybe by the placement, maybe by it being historic content. But the idea that people are now pushing for, a government committee to oversee it and then create rules, and then it's almost like an example of government getting too excited about something new, where maybe they just hang back and see what happens, because once again, it's only paint. At the end of the day, we could always just paint over them and they could be gone. So in some levels, you need the government involved, but in some levels, you don't have the government involved. We need a playbook from both governments that lay out things. We need the county and the city to work really closely together, because talk about those properties that are 10 feet on one side of the line or 10 feet on the other. They're the ones who are always just like, wait, who do I go to for what, and how does this work? And so we just need there really to be no daylight between the county and the city. And the last thing I'll say, we need the county and city to believe in this vision, because right now I've seen too much weird conversation coming out of elected officials saying, well, we don't want Frankfort to be bigger, or we're at our economic zenith right now. How could we ever be better? That's a limited vision that we need to tell them. We expect this of Frankfort. Here is the bar, and we need to hold ourselves accountable, and we need to hold our elected officials accountable to what we think Frankfort can become and what we expect from them. And so I'd say expectation and getting ahead of what we're talking about and setting a vision for the community. Having Bill May go out there and say, this is the vision for Frankfort. Having the judge go out there, this is the vision for Frankfort. And there be no daylight between them, and they can continue to sell that vision to everybody who comes to town and everybody that's in town. Yeah, Donna.
Jason, great presentation, by the way. Thanks for bringing all this out. Quick question. How do you foresee this influx of new business? What impact or effect do you see that having on the culture that we currently experience in Frankfort when it comes to hospitality and service?
Well, do we have a culture? I hate to say it.
Culture, that could be a good or bad.
I mean, I would say right now, we have a mindset in Frankfort that is, this is the pie, it's this big, and we just need to figure out how to slice it so I get a little bit more of the pie. And we always have people elbowing each other, being like, my slice needs to be bigger, which means I have to take away from your slice, and everyone's fighting over this finite size of pie. And what we and my brother are talking about, just make the pie twice as big, and everybody can have a bigger slice. And there's more to share. And too much, I run into that mentality of, well, if that person does that, that's going to hurt me. And we're like, what are you even talking about? No, if that person does that, more people are going to go down, and it's going to help you, and everybody's going to rise up. All boats rise together. So if you're asking if there's a hospitality culture we need to change, I think we need to change that mindset that if people are staying at Capitol Plaza versus another hotel, it hurts that hotel. But if there's more people coming to town to stay at Capitol Plaza, there will be benefit to all the lodging. All the restaurants will benefit by a new restaurant coming. And I'll say this because Donna was part of this. Midway is the perfect example. And she helped do that. 1,200 people in Midway. They had 3 4-star restaurants, a 5-star restaurant, and 2 or 3 3-star restaurants. How does a community of 1,200 people have that many awesome restaurants when we have Serafini's? I mean, come on. It's not about that. It's about, can we bring in a scale of people who want to be here? And if we can do that, everybody benefits. Everyone gets pie. It's awesome.
Yep. We are out of time.
We're out of time.
For,
Sorry.
But if you guys are willing to stick around for a few minutes, I'm sure people would love to have
Sure.
a private conversation with you
Absolutely.
after the meeting. Everybody give a big round of applause because it was very